Disney is a stock that's on my radar. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the daily time frame charts and the weekly time frame charts to show you why I like it from a technical basis. And then we'll take a look at the actual earnings, what Disney reported, and if there's a reason we can get excited from a fundamental level as well. Let's start the conversation off first with technicals. On the daily time frame chart here, the reason Disney caught my attention in the first place is our market pulse switch. You'll notice the market pulse turned green, and that's on the back of the market pulse being red. That suggests we've now transitioned from a market stage of deceleration to now acceleration. That's coming on the back of a positive earnings report. So earnings is really where we're going to need to spend some time digging deeper into the story, seeing if there's a reason why we should be excited about this trend switch. Now, one thing I want to call out is the trend previously switched not too long ago, back in April. If you zoom out and just take a look at 2026's price activity, to me it looks like one big W, a lot of chop, more tilted to the downside. So we really need to see some sort of positive catalyst, and I think you'll notice that that's slowly starting to trickle in the case of Disney here, especially if you see how earnings has been growing quarter over quarter. Now let's come in and take a look a little bit deeper first off with our technicals. I first started with taking our Fibonacci swings. We only had 2 swings in this recent trend, so I projected them from our high, and that gave us a level of 130 and 97.90. The first level is nice because that's just a nice little pullback to the market pulse, overlaps nicely there. And the second level, a little bit deeper of a pullback, I like a little bit more because it overlaps with our gap fill. In both of those cases, really that gives us a zone, call it somewhere between that $98 to $100 zone. So here is where we're looking for that entry inside of Disney. Now, if I zoom out and if I remove all other indicators outside of just the edge signals indicator, this hopefully helps illustrate what I'm looking at here. 1, 2, and 3 different edge signal arrows. And the edge signal arrows are a proprietary indicator. That's our overbought, oversold confirmation. Think of it almost like RSI on steroids. And the fact that we're seeing 3, we already had our little dip below for taking out all of the stops, and now we're starting to make our move up. This pullback, if we do get one, is one that I'm really excited about. Now, when that pullback comes, I'm looking for that pullback on a technical basis to overlap with our long side volatility box levels. I would prefer the daily levels if we get them, but even the hourly levels, just like we had this morning, would be a really nice opportunity to get long, especially when we combine it with some of our setups like the V-shaped reversal. So this is an example of what we're looking for as we head into those lower Fibonacci levels. And if we get the overlap 130 with the daily models, I'm going to be looking at that for a long side entry. Should look something like this, but overlapping with 130 tomorrow. Now that's the daily time frame chart. If we come into the weekly time frame chart, the weekly time frame also market pulse has been red, but we've now broken above the market pulse and feels like we're starting to gather a little bit of steam. I expect we would see maybe 1 or 2 more weeks of downside activity before we can see the continuation to this previous week. So you might still have some time for an entry. Now that's the technicals. Let's spend some time talking about earnings. Earnings this season was a beat. Our actual earnings for Disney came in at $2.06 versus analyst estimates of $1.87. Now that beat, if you take a look and dive a little bit deeper, came on the back of what I think is a pretty nice earnings report firing on all cylinders. Let me tell you exactly what I mean. First, let's start with their actual revenue. The revenue was up 7%, up to about $25.2 billion, with their operating income at 21%. That's already positive. They're making money. But here's the number that I think actually matters, and the number that I think most people are looking at, which is their streaming revenue. Their streaming revenue grew by 11% this quarter, and that grew to $5.5 billion. What I think is more interesting is their streaming profits doubled here. I think they're starting to figure out their streaming business. Disney and Hulu Plus are both operating at that 13% operating margin, suggesting that they really are now turning this into a self-sustaining, profitable business, another arm that's working for Disney. You combine this with their theme parks, that did 10 billion in this quarter, another record. And if you combine that with their actual franchises that we all know, things like Toy Story 5, which has been making box office records, all of this suggests at least Disney for the time being should be undervalued. Management seems to think so themselves, and they have suggested that they're going to be increasing their share buybacks to about, $9 billion. So all of that to me is positive signs, positive catalyst for Disney. I don't think it's attractive at the current price, but if we do get a little bit of a pullback here from a trading perspective, I think it becomes an interesting opportunity. For those of you who are investors, you may want to dig a little bit deeper into Disney, but bear in mind, Disney is a chart where if you zoom out, really, we've been chopping around now for the better part since about 2022. So I wouldn't hold my breath on something changing here, but I do think from a trading perspective, we have a nice short-term catalyst for a move to the upside, especially in a stock that's relatively undervalued. Take care, everyone. Good luck trading, and I'll see you in our next update.